The millionaire husband stopped the car on the deserted road and said, "Your place is no longer by my side." When she saw the other car approaching, her world fell apart. Helena was sitting in the large living room, staring at the view through the wide glass window. The luxury of her home didn't matter much to her these days. She heard footsteps behind her and turned, seeing Ricardo standing there. His face was calm, a blank expression that had become all too familiar. "Pack your bags," he said, almost without emotion. "We're going on a trip." Helena blinked, surprised. "A trip? Where?" "A surprise," Ricardo replied curtly, looking past her, as if already bored of the conversation. Helena hesitated for a second. She wanted to ask more questions, but something stopped her. She hadn't heard a kind word from Ricardo in months, and now, a surprise trip? Maybe it was his way of trying. Maybe things could still work out. She decided to believe in it, even if her instincts screamed otherwise. "All right," she said, standing up slowly. "I'll pack." Ricardo simply nodded and left the room. They were in the car, driving along a highway that seemed to stretch endlessly into the distance. Helena sat in silence, glancing at Ricardo. He kept his eyes on the road, his grip on the steering wheel tight. The tension in the car was thick, the silence heavy. She turned her head and noticed another car behind them, not too far back. Deborah. Helena had seen her earlier at the house. She had claimed she was there for work. But why was she following them now? Helena swallowed hard, her throat suddenly dry. "Why is Deborah coming along?" she finally asked, her voice barely audible. Ricardo didn't even glance at her. "She's got work to do," he answered, dismissively. Helena clenched her hands in her lap, her stomach twisting. She looked out of the window, watching the scenery change from urban to rural, the city gradually disappearing behind them. Hours later, they were on a narrow, winding road. It felt like they were miles away from any sign of civilization. Helena's unease grew with each passing moment. She kept telling herself that this was supposed to be a nice trip, a way to reconnect. But Ricardo's cold demeanor made it hard to hold on to that hope. Suddenly, Ricardo pulled over to the side of the road. He turned off the engine and unbuckled his seatbelt. "Get out," he said flatly. Helena blinked, confused. "What? Why are we stopping here?" Ricardo looked at her, his eyes devoid of any warmth. "I said get out." Helena's heart started to pound. "Ricardo, what is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Your place isn't with me anymore," Ricardo said. His words were sharp, cutting through her like a blade. He opened his door and stepped out of the car, moving around to open her door. Helena shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "What are you talking about? You can't just leave me here." Ricardo grabbed her arm and pulled her out of the car. "I'm done," he said. "Deborah's waiting. You need to figure things out on your own." Helena stumbled as she was pulled out, her legs shaky. She watched, stunned, as Ricardo turned back to the car, leaving her standing on the side of the empty road. "Ricardo!" she screamed, her voice echoing. He didn't look back. He got into the car, slammed the door shut, and drove off, leaving a cloud of dust in his wake. Helena stood there, frozen, her mind reeling. Deborah's car passed by slowly, and Helena could see her smile faintly, a smug look in her eyes before the car sped up, following Ricardo's. She was alone, completely alone. The wind blew dust across the road, and Helena felt the hot sun beating down on her. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. She pulled her phone from her bag, her fingers trembling. She tried to call someone, anyone, but there was no signal. She looked around, but there was nothing in sight, just fields stretching far into the horizon. Helena started walking. She had no idea where she was going, but she couldn't just stand there. Her shoes weren't meant for walking long distances, and each step on the rough terrain hurt. The sun burned on her skin, and soon she felt her head getting light. She tried to keep her thoughts together, but everything was a mess. She thought about the house, the events, the fancy dinners that meant nothing. She thought about how she tried so hard to keep things together, only for it all to end here, in the middle of nowhere. The heat was too much. Her vision blurred, her legs feeling weaker by the second. She tried to keep moving, but her body betrayed her. Helena felt herself stumble, then collapse to her knees. She gasped, her body feeling like it was giving up. She heard something, a sound in the distance, a vehicle. Her vision was dimming, but she managed to look up, seeing the shape of a truck approaching. Her body finally gave in, and she collapsed onto the ground, everything fading to black. Ricardo stood by the car, staring at Helena. His face was emotionless, his words cold and final. "It's over, Helena," he said, his voice cutting through the silence. "I'm leaving you. Deborah's waiting." Helena blinked, her heart pounding in her chest. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Oh, what do you mean?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "You can't be serious, Ricardo. We're married." Ricardo sighed, as if tired of the conversation already. "Get out of the car, Helena," he said. "I'm done. This isn't your place anymore." Helena shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "Ricardo, please," she begged, her voice cracking. "You can't leave me here." "Not like this." He opened the door and gestured for her to get out. "I'm not going to say it again," he said. Helena felt her legs shaking as she stepped out of the car. She stood there, feeling the heat of the sun on her face, watching as Ricardo walked back to the driver's seat. He got in, slamming the door shut. He didn't look at her again. "Ricardo!" Helena shouted, her voice filled with panic. But he didn't respond. He started the car and drove away, the sound of the engine fading into the distance. Helena stood on the side of the road, her mind blank. She watched the dust settle, and then she saw Deborah's car approaching. The window rolled down, and she saw Deborah's smug smile. Helena felt a chill run down her spine. Deborah waved. "Good luck, Helena," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm, before speeding off after Ricardo. Helena was alone, completely alone. The sun was relentless, burning down on her as she stood there, her mind still reeling from what had just happened. She looked around, but there was nothing in sight, just fields stretching out in every direction. She had no idea where she was or how far away the nearest town might be. She pulled her phone from her bag, her hands trembling. She tried to call someone, but there was no signal. She felt her heart sink even further, a cold fear wrapping around her chest. She was stranded, abandoned. Helena took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. She needed to move. She couldn't just stand there in the middle of nowhere. She started walking, her feet unsteady on the rough ground. Her shoes were not made for walking on dirt roads, and with each step, she could feel the discomfort growing. She had no water, no way to shield herself from the sun, and her head was beginning to pound. She kept walking, her legs heavy, her mind spinning. She tried to think of a plan, but her thoughts were too jumbled. All she could think about was Ricardo's face. the coldness in his eyes, the way he had looked at her like she was nothing. The sun continued to beat down, and Helena felt herself getting weaker. Her legs wobbled, her vision blurred, and she felt the world spinning around her. She stumbled, falling to her knees. She gasped for air, her body trembling. She tried to stand, but her strength was gone. Then she heard it, a sound in the distance, a truck. She lifted her head, her vision hazy. She saw the shape of a truck approaching. She tried to wave, but her arm felt like it weighed a ton. Her body finally gave in, and she collapsed onto the ground, everything going dark. Helena was fading in and out of consciousness, her body weak and limp. The heat had drained everything out of her, and she could barely keep her eyes open. Then, in the distance, she heard the rumble of an engine. It was getting closer. She forced her eyes open, but everything was blurry. She could barely make out a dark shape approaching. The sound stopped. Then she heard a door slam, followed by footsteps running toward her. Helena tried to speak, but her voice wouldn't come out. She felt someone lift her, strong arms wrapping around her. "Hey, can you hear me?" A man's voice said, close to her ear. "Hold on, I've got you." Helena couldn't respond. Her body was too weak. She let herself fall into the darkness, the sound of the man's voice fading away. When Helena opened her eyes, she was lying on a bed. The ceiling above her was wooden, and the light that filtered through the small window was soft. She blinked, trying to focus. She heard movement nearby, and she turned her head slightly. A man was standing by a table, pouring water into a glass. He was tall, with sun-weathered skin and dark hair. He turned when he heard her move. "Hey, you're awake," he said, his voice gentle. He walked over to her, holding the glass. "Take it easy. Here, drink this." Helena tried to sit up, but her body ached all over. The man helped her, placing the glass to her lips. The water was cool, and she drank it slowly, feeling it soothe her dry throat. "Where am I?" she managed to ask, her voice barely audible. "You're at my place," the man said. "My name's Joachim. I found you on the road. You were in pretty bad shape." Helena closed her eyes, trying to remember. It all came back in flashes. Ricardo, the car, Deborah, being left on the side of the road. She felt a tightness in her chest, and tears welled up in her eyes. "Hey, it's okay," Joachim said softly. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're safe now." Helena nodded, though the words didn't really comfort her. She was safe, but everything else was gone. She felt lost, like she didn't belong anywhere anymore. "Do you have family I can call?" Joachim asked, watching her carefully. Helena shook her head. "No one," she said, her voice cracking. She looked down at her hands, tears spilling down her cheeks. Joachim was silent for a moment. Then he said, "You can stay here as long as you need to. There's no rush." Helena looked up at him, surprised. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Joachim shrugged. "Because you need help," he said simply. "And I was there." Helena didn't know what to say. She had never expected kindness from a stranger. Not like this. She nodded, feeling a mixture of gratitude and confusion. "Thank you," she whispered. Joachim smiled. "Get some rest. You need it," he said, standing up. "I'll be just outside if you need anything." Helena watched as he walked out of the room, closing the door behind him. She lay back down, her mind racing. Everything that had happened felt like a nightmare. She closed her eyes, trying to push the thoughts away, and slowly drifted back into sleep. When Helena woke again, it was dark outside. She sat up, her body aching but feeling stronger. She looked around the small room. It was simple, with just a bed, a chair, and a small table. She could hear the sound of crickets outside, and the air was cool. She swung her legs off the bed, standing up slowly. She felt a little unsteady, but she managed to walk to the door. She opened it and stepped out into the hallway. Joaquim was sitting at the kitchen table, reading something. He looked up when he saw her. "You're up," he said, smiling. "Feeling better?" Helena nodded. "A little," she said. She hesitated, then asked, "Is there anything I can do to help?" Joaquim raised an eyebrow. "Help," he repeated. "You should be resting." "I want to do something," Helena said, her voice firm. She needed to feel useful, to do something other than think about everything that had happened. Joaquim studied her for a moment, then nodded. "All right," he said. "How about we start with dinner? I've got some food cooking, but I could use another pair of hands." Helena managed a small smile. "Okay," she said. Joaquim stood up and led her to the kitchen. He showed her what he was making, just a simple stew, nothing fancy. Helena chopped vegetables while Joaquim stirred the pot. They worked in silence for a while, the quiet, comforting. After a while, Joaquim spoke. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to," he said. "But if you need someone to talk to, I'm here." Helena paused, her hands stilling. She looked at Joaquim, his face open and kind. She took a deep breath. "My husband left me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just left me there, on the side of the road." Joaquim was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "That's rough," he said. "No one deserves that." Helena felt her throat tighten. "I don't know what to do now," she admitted. "Everything I thought I had, it's gone." Joaquim reached out, placing a hand on her arm. "You take it one day at a time," he said. "You'll figure it out. And you're not alone." Helena looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. She nodded, feeling a small flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, things could be okay again. Helena sat in the small kitchen of Joaquim's farmhouse, staring at her phone. The message was clear. Ricardo had transferred all their assets to foreign accounts. Everything she had worked for, everything she thought she had, was gone. She read the words over and over again, her heart sinking further each time. It was all meticulously planned, every detail arranged to leave her with nothing. She put her phone down, her hands trembling. Tears started to roll down her cheeks, and she covered her face with her hands, letting the sobs come. The betrayal cut deep, deeper than she thought possible. It wasn't just about the money. It was the cruelty, the absolute disregard for her well-being. Joaquim entered the room, carrying a box of supplies. He paused when he saw Helena, her shoulders shaking as she cried. He set the box down quietly and walked over to her. "Helena," he said softly. She looked up, her face wet with tears, her eyes full of pain. Joaquim's heart sank at the sight. He pulled a chair over and sat down beside her. "What happened?" he asked. Helena wiped her face with her hands, taking a shaky breath. "Ricardo," she said, her voice cracking. He took everything. The money, the assets. Everything." Joaquim frowned. "I'm so sorry," he said. He didn't know what else to say. He could see the devastation in her eyes, the hopelessness. Helena shook her head, more tears coming. "I don't understand how someone can be so heartless," she whispered. She looked at Joachim, her eyes searching his face. "I gave everything to that man, and he just left me like I was nothing." Joachim reached out, placing a hand gently on her arm. "You are not nothing, Helena," he said firmly. "You're here now, and you're not alone." Helena looked at him, her eyes filled with uncertainty. Joachim's expression was steady, his eyes kind. She wanted to believe him, but the pain was too raw, too real. She nodded slightly, though she didn't feel the hope that his words tried to give her. Helena spent the rest of the day in silence. She walked out to the fields, watching the workers as they tended to the crops, their laughter and conversations drifting on the wind. She envied their simplicity, their sense of purpose. They seemed so content, so secure in their place in the world. She, on the other hand, felt lost, like she didn't belong anywhere. She was sitting on an old wooden bench, staring at the horizon, when Joachim approached her again. He stood beside her for a moment before sitting down. "You've been quiet," he said. Helena nodded, her eyes still on the distant line where the sky met the fields. I don't know what to do," she admitted. "Everything is gone. Everything I thought I had." Joachim didn't answer right away. He looked out at the fields with her, the sun starting to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. "You don't have to figure everything out now," he said finally. "Just take it one day at a time. You're stronger than you think." Helena looked at him, her eyes searching his face. His words were simple, but there was something in the way he said them that made her feel seen. She took a deep breath, nodding. "Maybe," she said, though her voice still wavered. Joachim smiled. "You'll see," he said. "And until then, you've got a place here. You don't have to face this alone." Helena felt a lump in her throat, and she looked away, blinking back tears. She didn't know how to respond. It had been so long since someone had offered her kindness without expecting something in return. The next morning, Helena woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside her window. She lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling. The pain was still there, but it felt different, less consuming. She got up, pulling on a simple dress she had found in the closet. She walked out to the kitchen, finding Joachim already up, sipping coffee. He looked up when she entered, giving her a nod. "Morning," he said. Helena managed a small smile. "Morning," she replied. She hesitated for a moment, then spoke again. "Joachim, thank you for everything. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't found me." Joachim shrugged, a small smile on his lips. "You don't need to thank me," he said. "You're here now, and that's what matters." Helena nodded, her eyes misting over. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. I want to stay. Just for a little while longer," she said. "If that's okay." Joachim's smile widened. "Of course," he said. "Take all the time you need." Helena looked at him, her heart feeling a little lighter. Maybe staying here could help her find herself again, piece by piece. Later that day, Helena found herself in the fields again, this time standing beside Joachim as he showed her how to tend to some of the crops. He spoke in a patient tone, explaining the different plants, their needs, the way the soil worked. Helena listened, trying to take it all in. It was different from anything she had ever done, but there was something soothing in the work. something grounding. Joachim handed her a small tool, showing her how to use it. Helena took it, her fingers brushing against his. She looked up at him, and for a brief moment, their eyes met. There was something in his gaze, something kind and genuine, and Helena felt her heart skip a beat. She quickly looked away, focusing on the task at hand. She could feel her face warming, and she hoped Joachim didn't notice. They worked in silence for a while, the only sound the rustling of the crops and the distant laughter of the workers. Helena felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of calm. For the first time since everything had fallen apart, she felt like maybe, just maybe, things could be okay again. As the sun began to set, Joachim looked at Helena, his eyes softening. "You did good today," he said. "You're a fast learner." Helena smiled, a real smile this time. "Thanks," she said, her voice a little stronger. She looked at the fields, the way the setting sun cast long shadows across the land. "Maybe this place isn't so bad after all." Joachim chuckled. "It grows on you," he said, his eyes twinkling. "And so do the people." Helena looked at him, her heart swelling with a mix of emotions. Gratitude, hope, maybe even something more. She didn't know what the future held, but for now, she was okay with that. Helena woke early the next morning, the first rays of sunlight just beginning to filter through the curtains. She lay there for a moment, feeling the cool air of the early hours. The house was quiet. The only sounds the faint chirping of birds outside and the rustling of the trees. She knew she couldn't stay in bed. She needed to do something to feel productive. She got up, dressed in the same simple clothes she had worn the day before, and walked out of the room. In the kitchen, she found Joachim already up, drinking his morning coffee. He looked at her, a hint of surprise in his eyes. "You're up early," he said, a smile tugging at his lips. Helena nodded. "I want to help today," she said, her voice firm. She had made up her mind. She wasn't just going to sit around feeling sorry for herself. Joachim raised an eyebrow, then nodded. "All right," he said. He finished his coffee and stood up, grabbing his hat from the hook on the wall. "Come on, I'll show you what we need to get done." Helena followed Joachim outside, the morning air crisp and refreshing. The sun was low on the horizon, and the workers had already started their day, moving around the fields, tending to the animals. Joachim led her to a section of the field where they needed to clear out weeds. He handed her a pair of gloves and a small hoe. "Start by getting rid of these," he said, demonstrating with a quick movement. "It's not hard, just takes some patience." Helena took the hoe and knelt down, starting to work. The earth was rough, the weeds stubborn, but she found herself getting into a rhythm. Joachim worked beside her, not saying much, just occasionally glancing over to check her progress. It wasn't long before Helena's back began to ache, her hands growing sore from the repetitive motions. She paused, wiping sweat from her forehead. Joachim looked over at her, his eyes crinkling in a smile. "Harder than it looks, right?" he said. Helena let out a breath, nodding. "A lot harder," she admitted. But she didn't stop. She continued, her determination pushing her forward even when her muscles protested. They worked through the morning, the sun rising higher, warming the fields. By the time Joachim called for a break, Helena's entire body ached, her hands raw from the work. But there was a sense of accomplishment there, too, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Joachim handed her a bottle of water, and they sat in the shade of a large tree, resting. Helena drank the water slowly, feeling it cool her dry throat. She looked over at Joachim, who was watching the workers in the distance, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Do you ever get tired of this?" Helena asked, breaking the silence. Joachim looked at her, then shrugged. "Sometimes," he said. "But it's a good kind of tired, you know? At the end of the day, you feel like you've done something real." Helena nodded, understanding what he meant. It was different from anything she had known before. The parties, the charity events, the constant need to keep up appearances. It all felt so empty now. Here, it was simple, honest. They sat in silence for a while, just watching the fields, the workers moving like small figures against the green backdrop. Helena felt a sense of peace settling over her, something she hadn't felt in years. In the afternoon, Joachim showed Helena how to take care of the animals. He led her to the barn, where a few cows were grazing lazily. He handed her a bucket and demonstrated how to milk one of them. Helena watched, fascinated. She had never done anything like this before. "Here," Joachim said, stepping aside. "Your turn." Helena hesitated, then knelt down, taking the cow's udder in her hands. She tried to mimic Joachim's movements, but the cow shifted, and she nearly spilled the bucket. Joachim chuckled, and Helena felt her cheeks flush. "It's okay," Joachim said, guiding her hands. "Just be gentle, but firm." Helena tried again, this time managing to get a steady stream of milk into the bucket. She looked up at Joachim, a smile breaking across her face. He nodded, his eyes warm. "See? You're a natural," he said. Helena laughed softly, shaking her head. "Not quite," she said, but she felt a sense of pride. She was learning little by little. By the time evening came, Helena was exhausted. Her muscles ached, her hands were sore, but she felt good. She had spent the day working, really working, and it felt different from anything she had done before. It was honest, real work, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had done something worthwhile. Joachim was sitting on the porch when Helena walked up, a tired smile on her face. He looked at her, nodding in approval. "You did good today," he said. "You kept up, even with all the hard work." Helena sat down beside him, letting out a tired sigh. "It was tough," she admitted, "but I liked it. I needed this." Joachim looked at her, his eyes softening. "Sometimes we all need a change," he said. "Something different from what we know." Helena nodded. She looked out at the fields, the sun setting in the distance, casting everything in a golden glow. She felt a sense of calm, a sense of belonging that she hadn't felt in a long time. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for letting me stay. For everything." Joachim smiled. "You're welcome, Helena. You're welcome here as long as you need." Helena looked at him, her heart swelling. She didn't know what the future held, but for now, this was enough. She was finding herself again, bit by bit. And that was all she could ask for. The next few days followed the same pattern. Helena would wake up early, have breakfast with Joachim, and then head out to work. She helped in the fields, learned how to care for the animals, and slowly became a part of the routine. The workers accepted her presence, and she found herself laughing with them, feeling like she belonged. One afternoon, Joachim asked her to help with the bookkeeping for the farm. Helena was surprised at first, but agreed. She sat at the small table in the living room, going over the numbers, the receipts, and the records. It was something she knew how to do, something familiar amidst all the newness of farm life. Joachim watched her, as she worked, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know, you're pretty good at this," he said, a smile tugging at his lips. Helena looked up, meeting his eyes. "I used to do a lot of this," she said. "Before everything." Joachim nodded. "Well, it's good to have you here. We could use someone with your skills." Helena felt a warmth in her chest. She had been useful today, and it felt good. She looked at Joachim, a small smile on her face. "Thanks," she said. "I'm glad I could help." Joachim nodded, his eyes holding hers for a moment longer than usual. There was something there, something unspoken, something gentle. Helena looked away, her heart fluttering. As the day came to a close, Helena stood on the porch, watching the sun disappear beyond the horizon. Joachim came to stand beside her, silent for a moment before he spoke. "You've come a long way already," he said quietly. "You should be proud of yourself." Helena looked at him, her eyes glistening. She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I am," she whispered. "Thank you, Joachim, for everything." Joachim smiled, his eyes warm. "One day at a time." "Helena," he said. Helena nodded, her heart feeling lighter. One day at a time. It was enough for now. Helena was in the kitchen, preparing lunch alongside Joachim. She had gotten used to the quiet rhythm of the farm, the comfort of routine. She had begun to find moments of peace again. But then her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at the screen, her heart skipping a beat, when she saw several missed calls and a barrage of notifications. Helena's stomach tightened as she opened one of the messages. Her eyes scanned the text, the words feeling like a punch to the gut. The story of her abandonment had leaked to the media. Headlines of her being left on the side of a rural road were everywhere. Reporters had gotten wind of her story, and now the news was filled with speculation and sensationalized headlines. Joachim looked over at her. "What's wrong?" he asked, noticing the change in her expression. Helena put down her phone, her hand trembling. "They know," she whispered. "Everyone knows." Joachim frowned, stepping closer. "What do you mean?" Helena let out a shaky breath. "The media. They know what happened. They know about Ricardo, about everything. It's all over the news." Joachim's jaw tightened. He put a hand on her shoulder. "Hey, listen to me," he said, his voice calm but firm. "It doesn't matter what they say. You're here now, and you're safe. None of that matters." Helena shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "It does matter," she said, her voice cracking. "Everyone is going to know how pathetic I am. How he just left me." Joachim reached out, gently lifting her chin so she would look at him. "You're not pathetic, Helena," he said. "You're strong. You've been through more than most people could handle, and you're still standing. That's what matters." Helena closed her eyes, tears spilling down her cheeks. She wanted to believe him, but it was hard. The shame, the humiliation, it was overwhelming. She felt like the entire world was watching her, judging her. The next few days were difficult. Helena felt herself retreating inward, the weight of the media attention pressing down on her. She avoided the workers, stayed inside, and tried to ignore the constant buzzing of her phone. Each notification felt like another blow, a reminder of everything she had lost. Joachim tried to cheer her up, to get her to come back to the fields, but Helena couldn't bring herself to face anyone. She felt exposed, vulnerable. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ricardo's face, heard his cold words. She felt the sting of his betrayal, the way he had discarded her like she was nothing. One evening, Joachim found her sitting on the porch, staring blankly at the horizon. He sat down beside her, not saying anything at first. The silence stretched between them, the only sound the gentle rustling of the wind through the trees. "You know," Joachim said eventually, his voice soft, "what happened to you? It doesn't define you. People will talk. They'll say what they want. But that doesn't change who you are." Helena looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. "I just feel so lost," she admitted. "Oh, I don't know who I am anymore." Joachim nodded, his gaze steady. "I get that," he said. "But you're not alone. You have people who care about you now, and you're stronger than you think." Helena let out a shaky breath. She looked away, her heart aching. "I don't want to feel like this anymore," she whispered. Joachim reached over, taking her hand in his. His touch was warm, reassuring. "Then, don't let him win," he said. "Don't let Ricardo take any more from you. You deserve to be happy, Helena." Helena looked at their joined hands, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right," she said, her voice barely audible. Joachim squeezed her hand gently. "I know I am," he said with a smile. The next morning, Helena woke with a different feeling. She still felt the weight of everything that had happened. But there was something else, too. Something that felt like determination. She couldn't keep hiding. She couldn't let Ricardo, or the media, dictate her life anymore. She got up, dressed, and walked out to the fields. Joachim was there, talking to one of the workers. He looked up when he saw her, his eyes widening slightly. "Morning," Helena said, her voice steady. Joachim smiled, a look of pride crossing his face. "Morning," he said. "You ready to get back to it?" Helena nodded. "Yeah," she said. "I think I am." Joachim nodded, handing her a pair of gloves. "Let's get to work then," he said. Helena took the gloves, slipping them on. She felt the familiar ache in her muscles as she started to work, but it felt good. It felt right. She was taking her life back, one small step at a time. As the day went on, Helena found herself smiling again. The workers welcomed her back with open arms, and she felt a warmth in her chest. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments when she felt the sting of the past, the pain of Ricardo's betrayal. But she was moving forward. In the evening, as the sun was setting, Helena and Joachim sat on the porch again. This time, there was a comfortable silence between them. Helena looked at Joachim, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything, for not giving up on me." Joachim looked at her, his eyes warm. "You never needed me to not give up on you, Helena," he said. "You just needed to see that you're worth fighting for." Helena felt tears welling up again, but this time they were different. She nodded, a small smile on her lips. "Maybe I'm starting to believe that," she said. Joachim smiled. "Good," he said, "because it's true." Helena looked out at the fields, the sun disappearing beyond the horizon, and she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. It was small, fragile, but it was there. And for now, that was enough. Helena woke early, feeling a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in a long time. She dressed in her simple clothes and headed to the kitchen, where Joachim was already preparing breakfast. He looked up, giving her a smile as she walked in. "Morning," he said. "You're up early again." Helena nodded. "I want to help today," she replied, "but not just in the fields. I want to do more. I want to help with the farm itself, the business. Joachim paused, then nodded thoughtfully. All right, he said, setting down the pan he was using. There are some papers in the office that I could use your help with. It's a mess in there, but I think you're up for it. Helena smiled, a hint of pride in her eyes. It felt good to be needed. I'd like that. The office was cluttered, papers stacked on the desk and ledgers scattered about. Helena looked around, taking a deep breath. This was something she knew how to do. It had been a long time since she had used her skills, but it felt good to be doing something familiar. She started by organizing the receipts and documents, creating a system that made sense to her. Joachim watched from the doorway, his arms crossed, a smile playing at his lips. You're a natural, he said, his voice warm. Helena looked up, smiling back. It's just organization, she said, but she felt a sense of accomplishment. Joachim walked over, looking at the work she had done. No, it's more than that. I've been trying to get this organized for months, he admitted. I just never had the time. Or maybe I never knew where to start. Helena looked at him, feeling a connection growing between them. There was something genuine about Joachim, something that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt in years. She cleared her throat, turning back to the papers. Well, now you do, she said softly. They worked together for hours, Helena sorting through the finances, Joachim giving her insight into the workings of the farm. It was hard work, but it felt different from the life she had known before. It wasn't about social status or appearances. It was about something real, something that mattered. In the afternoon, Joachim brought her a cup of tea, sitting down across from her. You've really made a difference here, you know, he said, his eyes on her. Helena looked up, meeting his gaze. I'm just helping, she said. Joachim shook his head. No, it's more than that. You're bringing something to this place that wasn't here before, and it's not just the bookkeeping. Helena felt her face warm, and she looked away, a small smile on her lips. Thank you, she said quietly. Joachim smiled. You don't have to thank me, he said. I'm just telling the truth. The next few days followed the same pattern. Helena helped with the farm work in the mornings, then spent her afternoons in the office, organizing and managing the finances. She started to feel like she was making a real contribution, like she was becoming a part of the farm's success. One afternoon, Joachim came in, holding a stack of papers. He looked at Helena, his expression serious. I've been thinking, he said, about expanding the farm. Maybe taking on more land, more animals. What do you think? Helena looked at the papers, then at Joachim. She could see the hope in his eyes, the dream he was sharing with her. She nodded slowly. I think it could work, she said. But we'll need to plan it carefully. Make sure the finances are in place. Joachim smiled, his eyes lighting up. I knew you'd say that, he said. That's why I need you here. To help me figure it all out. Helena felt her heart swell. She nodded, a sense of purpose filling her chest. All right, she said. Let's do it. Their partnership grew stronger with each passing day. They spent long hours together, planning and working, and Helena felt herself growing closer to Joachim. He was kind, patient, and he believed in her. It was a feeling she hadn't experienced in so long, and it scared her, but it also gave her hope. One evening, after a long day of work, Joachim and Helena sat on the porch, watching the sunset. Joachim turned to her, his expression soft. You've really made this place better, Helena, he said, I don't know what I'd do without you." Helena felt her heart skip a beat. She looked at him, her eyes searching his face. "You'd be just fine," she said softly. "But I'm glad I could help." Joachim reached over, taking her hand in his. Helena looked down at their joined hands, her heart pounding. She felt the fear rising, the fear of trusting, of opening herself up again. Joachim squeezed her hand gently. "I know you've been hurt," he said. "I won't rush you, but I just want you to know I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere." Helena looked at him, her eyes filling with tears. She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you," she said. "I'm not ready yet, but maybe someday." Joachim smiled, his eyes softening. "Take all the time you need," he said. "I'll be right here." Helena felt a tear roll down her cheek, and she looked away, her heart swelling. She had been so scared of trusting again, but with Joachim, it felt different. It felt real. The next day, Helena threw herself into the work, helping Joachim with the new plans for the farm. She worked alongside him, negotiating with suppliers, organizing the expansion. She felt a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging that she hadn't felt in so long. Joachim admired her determination, her drive. He watched her as she worked, his admiration growing into something deeper. He saw the strength in her, the courage it took for her to start over, and he knew he was falling for her. Helena, too, found herself feeling something she hadn't expected. She was scared, but she was also hopeful. She had found a place where she was valued, where she was respected, and it was changing her. One evening, Helena stood by the window, looking out at the fields. Joachim walked up behind her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "You're thinking again?" he said softly. Helena smiled, her eyes still on the horizon. "I am?" she admitted. Joachim stepped closer, his voice low. "What are you thinking about?" Helena turned to look at him, her eyes filled with emotion. "I'm thinking about how far I've come," she said, "and how much I've changed." Joachim nodded, his eyes holding hers. "You've come a long way, Helena," he said, "and I'm proud of you." Helena felt a tear slip down her cheek. She reached up, brushing it away. "Thank you," she whispered. Joachim smiled, stepping closer. "You're stronger than you know," he said. Helena looked at him, her heart pounding. She felt the walls she had built around herself begin to crumble, just a little. She nodded, her voice steady. "Maybe I'm starting to believe that," she said. Joachim leaned in, his forehead resting against hers. "Good," he said, "because it's true." Helena closed her eyes, letting the moment wash over her. She wasn't ready to fully open herself up yet, but she was getting there. And for now, that was enough. Helena woke with a sense of calm she hadn't known in years. She felt like the pieces of her life were slowly starting to come together, like the chaos of the past was beginning to fade into the background. She dressed quickly, tying her hair back, and went to the kitchen. Joachim was there, as always, sipping his morning coffee. He smiled when he saw her. "Good morning," he said. "Morning," Helena replied, taking a seat across from him. She hesitated for a moment, then spoke. "I've been thinking. I want to invest in the farm. I want to help you expand, really make this place thrive." Joachim looked at her, his expression softening. "You don't have to do that, Helena," he said. "You've already done so much." Helena shook her head. "I want to," she insisted. "It's not just about helping you. It's about starting over, building something real. I want to be a part of this, Joachim. Joachim looked at her, a smile slowly spreading across his face. All right, he said. Then let's do it. Together. Helena felt a warmth spread through her chest. She nodded, her heart feeling lighter. This was her chance to create something new, something meaningful. They spent the next few days planning, working out the logistics of expanding the farm. Helena took charge of the finances, organizing their resources and figuring out what they needed. Joachim focused on the practical aspects, what new equipment they needed, what changes they would make to the fields. Helena found herself fully immersed in the work. She met with suppliers, negotiated prices, and arranged for the purchase of new land adjacent to the farm. It was challenging, but she loved every moment of it. She felt a sense of purpose that she hadn't felt in so long. Joachim was by her side every step of the way. They worked late into the evenings, sitting at the kitchen table with papers spread out in front of them. They made plans, dreamed about what the farm could become, and slowly, they began to bring those dreams to life. One day, Joachim came back from town with news. The land deal went through, he said, a smile lighting up his face. We're expanding, Helena. Helena looked at him, her heart swelling. She stood up, wrapping her arms around him in a hug. Joachim stiffened for a moment, then relaxed, wrapping his arms around her in return. We did it, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Joachim pulled back slightly, looking into her eyes. No, you did it, he said. You made all of this happen. Helena smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. We did it together, she said. As the expansion began, Helena found herself adjusting to the new pace of life on the farm. There were more workers now, new faces joining their small community. Helena made an effort to get to know each of them, learning their names, hearing their stories. She wanted them to feel like they were a part of something bigger, just as she did. The farm started to change. There were new fields being prepared, new equipment arriving. It was a lot of work, but there was a sense of excitement in the air, a feeling that they were building something meaningful. Joachim and Helena continued to work side by side. They were partners now, and that partnership brought them closer together. They spent their days working hard, and in the evenings, they would sit on the porch, watching the sunset, talking about their dreams for the future. Helena could feel herself opening up more, trusting Joachim in a way she hadn't trusted anyone in years. It wasn't just about the work. It was about the life they were building together, the hope that came with each new day. One afternoon, Joachim found Helena sitting at the kitchen table, going over some papers. He watched her for a moment, his heart swelling with admiration. He walked over, placing a hand on her shoulder. You look deep in thought, he said, his voice soft. Helena looked up, smiling. Just going over some numbers, she said, making sure everything's on track. Joachim nodded, pulling out a chair and sitting beside her. You know, you've changed this place more than I ever thought possible, he said. I don't know how I ever managed without you. Helena looked at him, her eyes filled with emotion. You would have been fine, she said, but I'm glad I could help. Joachim reached over, taking her hand in his. It's more than help, Helena, he said, his voice sincere. You've brought something here that I didn't even know was missing. Helena looked at him, her heart pounding. She could see the truth in his eyes, the depth of his feelings. She felt her own walls crumbling, bit by bit. I don't know what I would do without you, Joachim, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Joachim smiled, his eyes softening. "Well, you won't have to find out," he said, "because I'm not going anywhere." Helena felt tears welling up in her eyes, and she nodded. She leaned in, resting her forehead against his. For the first time in a long time, she felt at peace. The expansion continued, and Helena found herself falling more in love with the life they were building. She had never imagined herself on a farm, living a simple life, but now she couldn't imagine being anywhere else. She loved the work, the people, and most of all, she loved the man who had given her a second chance. One evening, Joachim and Helena stood by the new fields, watching as the workers finished up for the day. Joachim looked at her, a smile on his face. "We've come a long way," he said, his voice filled with pride. Helena nodded, her heart swelling. "We have," she agreed. Joachim turned to her, his eyes holding hers. "And I couldn't have done it without you," he said. "You're a part of this place now, Helena. You always will be." Helena felt her throat tighten, and she looked away, blinking back tears. "I want to be," she whispered. "I want this to be my home." Joachim stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "It is your home," he said, "and it always will be." Helena looked up at him, her heart pounding. She felt the fear, the uncertainty, but she also felt hope. She nodded, a small smile on her lips. "Then let's keep building it," she said. Joachim smiled, leaning in to press a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Together," he said. Helena closed her eyes, letting the warmth of his words wash over her. She was home. She was finally home. The morning sun was rising over the fields, casting a soft golden light across the land. Helena stood on the porch, watching as the workers moved through the rows of crops, their laughter and conversations drifting on the breeze. She felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of peace that she had never thought she'd find again. Joachim walked up behind her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're up early," he said, his voice gentle. Helena turned, smiling at him. "I wanted to see it all," she said. "See what we've built together." Joachim nodded, his eyes softening. "We've done good, haven't we?" he said. Helena looked out at the fields, her heart swelling with pride. "We really have," she said. The day began like any other. Helena and Joachim worked together, helping the workers, checking on the new fields, and making sure everything was running smoothly. It was hard work, but it was fulfilling. Every task, every challenge they faced together, made Helena feel more connected to this place, to the life she had chosen. Joachim watched Helena as she worked, a smile on his face. He could see how much she had changed since that first day when he found her on the side of the road. She had gone from someone who was broken and lost to someone strong and confident. She was no longer just surviving. She was thriving. As they worked, one of the workers approached Joachim, a smile on his face. "Hey, boss, I think we're ready to try selling the new produce at the market," he said. Joachim looked at Helena, raising an eyebrow. "What do you think?" he asked. "Ready to show off what we've done?" Helena smiled, her eyes lighting up. "I think it's time," she said. The market day came quickly. Helena and Joachim loaded up the truck with crates of fresh produce, the fruits of their hard work. Helena felt a mix of excitement and nerves as they drove to the market. This was a big step, a chance to show everyone what they had accomplished. When they arrived at the market, Joachim helped her set up their booth. They laid out the produce, arranging the fresh vegetables and fruits, each one a testament to their efforts. Helena looked around, seeing the other vendors, the bustling activity. It felt like she was part of something bigger, part of a community. The customers started to arrive, and soon their booth was busy. Helena found herself talking to people, explaining their produce, sharing stories of the farm. She watched as people smiled, complimenting the quality of the vegetables, asking about their methods. She felt a pride she hadn't felt in so long. This was their work, their success, and people were seeing it, appreciating it. Joachim stood by her side, his smile never fading. He watched Helena interact with the customers, saw the way her eyes lit up when someone praised their produce. He knew this was exactly where she belonged. By the end of the day, they had sold nearly everything. Helena stood by the booth, watching the last few customers leave, a sense of fulfillment washing over her. She looked at Joachim, her eyes filled with emotion. "We did it," she said, her voice full of pride. Joachim nodded, stepping closer. "We really did," he said. He reached out, taking her hand. "And this is just the beginning, Helena." Helena looked at their joined hands, her heart swelling. She had spent so long feeling lost, like she didn't belong anywhere. But now, standing here, with Joachim by her side, she knew she had found her place. She looked up at him, her eyes shining. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Joachim smiled, his eyes softening. "You don't have to thank me," he said. "You've done this, Helena. You've made this place what it is." Helena felt tears welling up in her eyes, and she nodded. She reached up, wrapping her arms around him in a hug. Joachim held her close, his arms wrapping around her tightly. "You're home now," he whispered. Helena closed her eyes, letting his words sink in. She was home. She was finally home. That evening, after they had returned to the farm, Helena and Joachim sat on the porch, watching the sunset. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, the air cool and still. Joachim looked at Helena, his eyes filled with love. "You know," he said, his voice soft, "I never imagined I'd find someone like you, someone who would change everything." Helena looked at him, her heart pounding. She reached over, taking his hand. "Oh, you've changed everything for me, too," she said. "I was so lost, and you found me." Joachim smiled, his eyes glistening. "We found each other," he said. Helena nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else," she whispered. Joachim leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Neither would I," he said. They sat there, in the fading light, holding hands, watching the sun dip below the horizon. It was simple, and it was perfect. Helena knew that there would be challenges ahead, that life wasn't always easy, but she also knew that she had found something real, something worth fighting for. She looked at Joachim, her heart swelling with love. This was true wealth, the kind that couldn't be measured in money or luxury. It was the kind that came from the simple moments, from the love and the connection they had found together, and that, Helena knew, was worth more than anything.